Across Britain, there's up to 100,000 sex workers. Around 20% of them are men. The most vulnerable say to survive, they have no choice.
Started off with 1 or 2 people a night, then more.
Others see it as a positive choice.
It would be like full service for that. It would be 150.
For some, it's just extra income.
Sex work is something which I have used to supplement my income and also to use to allow me to start my own business.
For others, drug taking is demanded of them by clients.
It basically involves getting high and having sex together, often for extended periods of time.
These are their stories. These are the men for sale.
We've gained rare access to 4 male sex workers who spoke candidly about their experiences. To protect their identity, some names and voices have been changed. It's early afternoon in East London, and Daniel has just finished his first appointment of the day. After dropping out of university, he turned to sex work and has been doing it full-time for the last decade.
You were with one of your clients.
Yeah.
Is that a regular client?
No, it's a new client. I've moved here about 6 months ago, and I'm just building up my client base at the moment. I see mainly single men. A large proportion of them are gay and out, but also a lot of them are married.
What age brackets do they tend to be in?
Generally, I'd say they fall between 35 and 80. I had 85 as probably my oldest.
How much do you charge per hour?
I charge a massage rate of 100, but most of my customers are paid a 150 for a single hour, and then for successive hours they'd pay an extra 50. For an overnight, they'd usually pay 250, but maybe upwards if they wanted to play for longer.
For that money, is that whatever the client wants?
I have boundaries, which are usually unsafe sex and drug taking. So yeah, if they were wanting any kind of dominance or submission scenario, then that would be within my rate. If they wanted any kind of top or bottom scenario, again that would be within the rate.
Experts estimate 80% of male sex workers have an online presence, and Daniel is no different. He legally advertises his services through apps and websites.
Feel like a drink?
We spent the evening with him to see what his busy periods are like. They start at 6 p.m. and go on until 4 a.m.
So you've just got a message?
Yeah, someone asking if I do sensual body-to-body massage and what are my rates for that.
And what did you send back?
I've said my rates are 100 for an in-call, so if they come and visit me, 100 and 150 out. So they said, thank you. So I think that means probably my rates are too high. So if I've not worked by 11 p.m. or something, I might consider a lower offer.
Daniel calls the customer who's been messaging him.
Hello, you okay? So you require 1 hour, yeah? One hour sensual body to body. Yeah, and is that going to be at yours or? It would be like a full service for that. It would be 150 full service. Body to body massage would be 100. Okay. Okay. Cheers. Bye. Yeah, he was looking for a bit more than the massage. So perhaps we go to him later. I don't know. Depends whether he's willing to pay the extra £50 or whether that's what he really wants.
Is sex work legal? The short answer is yes. You can legally buy and sell sex. Where it becomes illegal is when someone is forced to sell themselves against their will, when someone works from a brothel because brothels are illegal, or when someone solicits for sex work on the streets.
Around 5% of male sex workers operate on the street, and Manchester has the most male street sex workers in the country. It's centred underneath the city's famed gay village. Hayley Speed works for one of only a handful of organisations across the UK that supports these men.
When we speak to sex workers about when they first got involved with sex work, the phrase we hear most commonly is, I was sat when I was 14, 15. Now that's not sex work when you're 14, 15, that's exploitation, but themselves wouldn't use that language. That's a really common kind of theme, that it started so young, and people tell you these things have happened without seeing it that seriously. Oh God, I got raped the other night. Like they got wet from it raining. That kind of the normalisation of kind of quite extreme behaviours. And they kind of, you tell the police? Well, no, it's just part of, part of the course.
Fergal McCullough, who runs the charity, along with Hayley, took us down to the Canalside hub where male street workers operate from. Although we did meet some male sex workers down here, we couldn't film those interactions.
There may be people coming home from work, kind of wandering through, seeing if they can meet somebody to, hook up with. That tends to kind of happen down there, so kind of people actually kind of go down there and engage in kind of sex down that end, and also cross over there. You can see there's mainline drug injecting going on that side of the things, so it's quite a busy area really.
On the scale of sex work, these are some of the most vulnerable men.
Yeah, guys that down here would be that end, that more potentially homeless. A lot of them are care leavers. If they're not homeless, they may be, if they're not street homeless, they're sofa surfing, they're certainly not working. I wouldn't necessarily say that the guys that you meet down here have made a rational choice to be in this situation.
Back at base, we meet Tyler. He fled his hometown when his family disowned him for being gay. Knowing no one in the city and with no money, he was forced onto the streets. Within a week, he turned to sex work. The first time you engaged in that and you did sex work, what was that like?
Straight afterwards you feel disgusting, obviously, but you got that money there. I started off with 1 or 2 people a night, then more and more, and you get to a point where you just shut down.
And can I ask how much you were earning?
On the streets, zilch. 50 quid. Sometimes nothing. Sometimes they take it back and lock you in a car.
So a punter would lock you in a car?
And wouldn't let you out until you gave him the money back.
You say you moved away from street work.
I started to go online. Online it's better money. A lot better money.
Research seen exclusively by this programme found over 12% of male sex workers they spoke to had been sexually assaulted in the last 5 years. The same study found 70% of male respondents were unlikely to report crimes to the police. You were raped by a client.
So I got a job, I got a call to go to a job in a hotel. I'd been there an hour or 2 having a drink. When I went, there was one person. And I woke up, no clothes on the bed, sprawled out with like 4 men naked around me.
And they drugged you?
Mm-hmm. They spiked my drink, so I passed out. In 20 minutes, you're gone for hours.
So when you woke up and there are 4 men around you?
Masturbating and everything, yeah.
What was going through your head?
What to do? Do I get up and do I leave, or if I try to leave, what will they do? I was just so scared, really. I was trying to figure out, were they here before I passed out? Or then I just had to get out of there and I had to leave. They didn't care. They really did. They didn't care. They just literally let me leave normally. Not even worried about if I was going to say anything. They just literally didn't care.
When something like that happens, and you've been doing sex work, some sex workers are reticent or afraid to go to the police.
We went there, not knowing. You'd never go there if you knew what was going to happen, but you're afraid that people are going to be like, well, you're a sex worker, it's your own fault. I was just afraid. Sorry. Do you know what really gets me though? It's the fact that because I'm a guy, they think it's not as bad as a woman being raped, but it's exactly the same.
Tyler says he had no choice but to go into sex work, but many others elect to do it. It's thought 5% of Britain's students have engaged in some form of sex work, like Tom, who started while studying and now works in design by day and by night as a sex worker.
How difficult is it to straddle those two professions, to have those two lives, if you like?
I don't think it's difficult if you set clear boundaries. My career, as I see it, is my job during the day. Sex work is something which I have used to supplement my income. It was very useful for me as a student. I could make good money. My hours were flexible. I wasn't struggling.
So you get to London, you say you don't know anybody, you've got no job.
Yeah.
How quickly were you able to set yourself up within the industry?
Within maybe a month or so, I could move to London and I didn't have to work in a bar for minimum wage. I think that a lot of people, might look at what I do, find it quite distasteful, and that's fine, that's their prerogative. But for me, the idea of working for minimum wage, long hours, it's perverse. So it works for me. That's the biggest thing, that I try to get across to people, is that it works for me.
Drugs and male sex work are inextricably linked, due in large part to chemsex. It's a growing trend where drugs are used to heighten sexual experience. By default, it's become one of the main services sex workers now offer. The drugs of choice are the methamphetamine crystal meth and the psychoactive GHB. Toby has been a sex worker for 18 months, and now 50% of his clients are for chemsex.
It's got that sort of, junkie look to it.
You said it looked quite junky. Do you think of yourself as a junkie?
No, but when I show someone who doesn't know what it is or doesn't do it, or even sometimes when I look at it and I see how dirty it is, I think, yeah, that's pretty nasty.
What is the chemsex scene?
It basically involves getting high and having sex together, often for extended periods of time. That would normally be the case, and that's possible because of the drugs we take.
What sort of period of time are we talking?
Sometimes people will get high and it will be for a few hours. It won't be a constant process, sort of stop-start, and people will be getting high in the middle of that. But in other cases, it will last for a weekend or, several days.
So before you did sex work, 18 months ago, what were you doing?
The stuff I was doing was pretty minimum wage kind of work, £9 an hour. I'd have to work a good 12-hour day to make the same amount of money I can make in an hour doing this job.
Would you say you are addicted?
If I'm doing the sex work and I'm in my apartment, then yeah, I am addicted in that environment. But if I take myself out of that environment, it's very easy not to think about it.
The drugs used in chemsex are of course illegal, but sex work itself is becoming increasingly legitimate. Back in 2015, the government launched a drive to get sex workers to pay tax on their income.
But it can still be a lonely business, and research seen exclusively by this programme found 20% of men they spoke to felt isolated.
Do you have people who you consider friends in your life?
I would say only through my work, yeah, because that's where I do most of my socialising. So you have a few clients who become close friends.
Of all the men we spoke to on and off camera, when we asked what their families thought about what they did, the vast majority refused to talk about it. And out of the 4 we did speak to, 3 of them would only talk to us anonymously for fear of their families finding out.